West Hill United is a progressive spiritual community where how you live is more important than what you believe. West Hill United is a people, a place, an idea. We are a community living out of a progressive faith, striving to make a positive difference in our own lives, the lives of others, and the world. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. or connect with us at any time.
In this video, John will be referencing to a TED Talk that will be in the description below.
Unmuting myself. When the readings came to me earlier this week, I sat down and read them over a couple of times and began reflecting upon the topic. And I wondered what other people had to say about the topic for today of self-acceptance. And I had 6 reflections on this topic, which I'd like to share with you. First, may I accept myself as I am today. May I learn to love and accept myself unconditionally. I am here. I'm home. That's by Laurasia Mattingly. And if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. Buddha. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself as I am, then I change. Carl Rogers. If we want our children to love and accept who they are, our job is to love and accept who we are. That was by Brené Brown. When we give ourselves compassion, the tight knot of negative self-judgment starts to dissolve, replaced by a feeling of peaceful, connected acceptance. A sparkling diamond that emerged from the coal. And that was Kristen Neff. And finally, self-acceptance is truly a heroic act by Nathaniel Branden. At the end of the readings, we customarily add the phrase, offered as wisdom for the journey. And we invite you to respond with the phrase, may we walk in its light. This is simply an invitation to participate if you wish to do so. The first reading. Being a better person is about taking a journey of personal growth that evolves you into the best version of yourself. No matter who you are, positive steps like building empathy, practicing mindfulness, and helping others are ways you can be a better person in the world. Changing your behavior can be a difficult process, but like physical exercise, all it takes is practice. It is normal to feel that you could be doing more when it comes to self-improvement. But being a better person doesn't involve being overly hard on yourself. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The more self-kindness and self-compassion you can foster, the more equipped you'll be to treat those around you in the same way. And the source of that gem of wisdom is thehealthline.com. Our second reading, Dolly Chugh is a social scientist who studies the psychology of good people. Dolly Chugh teaches at New York University's STEM School of Business in the full-time MBA program and at the New York University Prison Education Program. Her book, The Person You Mean to Be, How Good People Fight Bias, was published by HarperCollins and selected by Malcolm Gladwell, Adam Grant, Susan Cain, and Dan Pink as one of the 6 books to have on your bookshelf in the fall of 2018. Prior to becoming an academic, Chugh worked in the corporate world for 11 years. She received her BA from Cornell and her MBA and PhD from Harvard. So, what I've been thinking about is what we were to just forget about being good people. Just let it go. And instead, set a higher standard of being a goodish person. A goodish person absolutely still makes mistakes. But as a goodish person, I am trying to learn from them, own them. I expect them and I go after them. I understand that there are costs to these mistakes. When it comes to issues like ethics and bias and diversity and inclusion, there are real costs to real people. And I accept that. As a goodish person, in fact, I become better at noticing my own mistakes. I don't wait for people to point them out. I practice finding them. Sure, sometimes it can be embarrassing. It can be uncomfortable. We put ourselves in a vulnerable place sometimes. But through all that vulnerability, just like in everything else we've tried to ever get better at, we see progress. We see growth. We allow ourselves to get better. Offered as wisdom for the journey.
May we walk in its light. Today we're going to see a TED Talk from Dolly Chugh. In the introduction to the second reading, Morland's given us a little bit of Dolly's biography, so I don't need to repeat that. When I was looking for a topic for today, I wanted to try and dig into the wisdom section of our Vision Works document. And in looking for speakers talking on a topic that sounded like it was offering us wisdom, there was quite a few options, a lot of them somewhat broad and generic, and ultimately a little bit impersonal. But Dolly's is a little bit more personal. It's witty at times, a bit of humour, and that helps to get the message over. So here is Dolly on the subject of how to let go of being a good person and become a better one. So it's over to Dolly. Well, I don't know whether I have 11 million pieces of information circulating around my brain at the moment or not, because I'm somewhat focused on trying to reflect on what Dolly Chugh was saying. And one thing I thought about when I was thinking about this, and actually I had thought about her talk a little bit before it dawned on me, that a simple way of putting what I think she's talking about is that this is about the journey of being human beings. It's not about the destination. And so I thought that was quite hopeful, because it takes the focus away from where we are or what we are like, and helps us, as Morton was reminding us, about self-acceptance. We might be good people, but we can always become better people. One of the dangers of this kind of talk is that it can seem a little bit homespun, a little too much about something you would read in a self-improvement magazine. We heard in one of the readings that it takes practice, a little bit more self-compassion, and we're ready to be compassionate towards others. Boom, and it's done. Maybe not. It's not really as easy as that, is it? When I was introducing the TED Talk, I said I'd been looking for a talk that spoke to the wisdom part of our vision works. And referencing that, I was thinking about these words where we have written, we strive to grow in wisdom for living and strengthen our commitment to our values so that we may effectively apply them personally, locally, and globally. Striving to grow in wisdom for living, not just for its own sake, but for living. When Chugh speaks of the red zone of defensiveness, that struck home with me, because it just seems so true to life, so authentic. How uncomfortable we feel when someone challenges us. I'm sure we've all been there, in a situation where we've said something and almost instantly regretted it because we didn't choose our words carefully enough. We allowed something that was going on in the background to make us say the wrong words, even though we would not ordinarily have said these, and how much we spring onto the defensive when that happens. And the danger is that we just remain in the defensive zone when there are opportunities for growth there. It's like pausing, taking a deep breath, and just giving ourselves the opportunity to learn from that situation. One of the things I found at West Hill is that we can all make mistakes. I mean, it's something we all know. We're human, and none of us is perfect. But the special thing is when we are given space to learn from the mistakes, when failing in company, and being given the opportunity to make things better, to try and make things right. We can fail without a crushing judgment from others, or even from ourselves, or perhaps just from ourselves. So that the next time we might not fail so badly, or as someone has put it, we feel better next time. We will feel vulnerable, but that vulnerability isn't going to be exploited. And I think it's when we realize that we're not going to be exploited, that it's a safe place to be vulnerable, to be accepted. And from that, we can learn to accept ourselves. I was mentioning that none of us is perfect. And that's what we recognize at the end of Vision Works, in the conclusion where we say, as we strive to live in these ways as individuals and community, we often soar and often stumble. Yet in joy and sorrow, in certainty and doubt, we travel together in a spirit of love. We often soar and often stumble. That's our experience, and that's what goodish people do. We sometimes soar and sometimes stumble. And Chugh's reminding us that we are all work in progress. We are becoming. I like the use of the present tense, the present participle, because it is something that's ongoing. It's not a final state. When we are choosing to learn from our stumbles with love guiding us, we are allowing ourselves to become better people. Doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean we'll feel different. But being goodish is part of the journey to becoming better. Over to Babette now. Thank you.
Become a sustaining champion of West Hill United's work by committing to an automatic monthly donation. Learn more or donate now through Canada Helps.